All right, what is up, guys? Vivi back with another video, and today we're going to be going over a little bit of a deck tech brainstorming, theory crafting video on Garp. So in one of my recent videos, I asked at the end, what do you guys want me to try next? Because I was gonna, I wanted to take a break from Black Yellow Charlotte Linlin or Big Mom. Not because the deck's not doing well. The deck was doing very well. I got a second and third place local finish with it. But it's like, okay, let's try something else now, right? Let's try something else. And I posted 5 options. I said, what do you guys think? Either Garp, Z, Sakazuki, Ace, or Nami. And a lot of people said Garp. And I think a few people said Sakazuki and a few people said Z. I'll try to get around to all of them. But this is going to basically be one of my more comprehensive style walkthroughs on how I'm, in my mind, how I want to go around building, Garp. How I want to build a Garp deck. So first things first, we're going to go over all the, maybe not all the potential cards, but a lot of potential cards for Garp that we need to think about when building the deck. Because there's a lot to think about. And then we're going to go over 5 example decks that I've made up, and then maybe you guys can give me y'all's opinion on, I think you should try this version or this version, right? So okay, so let's go ahead and hop right into it. So first and foremost, I'm using the website onepiece-cardgame.dev is what it is. Let me just bring up another page of it. I got a bunch of pages up. Yeah, it's this right here, onepiece-cardgame.dev, and then backslash, I think it's a backslash or slash, I don't know, cards. Okay, so that's where we're at. And we're going to just talk through some cards real quick. We're going to brainstorm a little bit and try and come up with a deck that's going to work for us, that has synergy, that has a strong amount of what people call synergy, like how well do the cards go together. Okay, so first of all, what does our hero do? What does our leader, Monkey D. Garp, do? So right here, I'm not sure how well y'all can see this. It is actually hard to read on this card. So I'm going to bring up the other version here. Okay, when you attach Dawn to this leader or one of your characters, give up to one of your opponent's 7 cost or lower characters -1 to their cost during this turn. Now notice it's not once per turn. It is just any time on your turn. Any way that you attach Dawn is going to give us this effect. Now it cannot target someone who's larger than a 7 cost, but we're going to have ways of getting around that as well. 5,000 power, of course, for life, just like a standard dual color leader. Okay, so with all that in mind, let's go ahead and hop straight into it. So first up, this top 4 row here, it's just in, I don't know what order it's in, actually. It's in, it's sorted by category, and then power, and then cost, and then card ID. So apparently that's the order it's in. But here's how it is. This top row is all 2K counters. Technically speaking, any of these will be fine, but we want to be more specific, right, when we're trying to make a deck that works. So Otama is the first one that's up here. Everyone knows who Otama is, who plays One Piece right now, or One Piece TCG, because she is a 2K counter, 1 cost, that can on play -2,000 power to a character, to an opponent's character during this turn. That has a lot of utility in red, and that's another thing I should mention. Garp is red and black, so we can use red and black cards. Sorry if I didn't already mention that. But for what Garp does, that's not necessarily the greatest combination with Garp. And let me just go ahead and get that out of the way right now as well. Red and black do not have the greatest amount of synergy in the game at the current time, right? As of OP03, they do not have the greatest... They do not mix perfectly together. Black and yellow had a lot better of a mixture because of cards like Thunderbolt, right, where it goes off of cost manipulation, which we can deal with, right? So black and red seem to kind of be polar opposites, if you will. The red cards are more based on power manipulation, and the black cards are more based on cost manipulation, and they don't exactly meet in the middle. So that is something I just want to get out of the way up front. And one more thing before we go on any further. I think I included some OP04 cards in here, and I want to mention that right away too. I did not want to go over Garp just yet because I think in OP04 we're going to have much better options at our disposal for a Garp deck. But let's keep going anyway. Okay, so like we just said, Otama is a good 2K counter. She can be splashed. Any 2K counter can be splashed in any deck that uses that color. Okay, so Otama is something we got to think about. Makino. So this is kind of the inverse of Otama, right? Instead of reducing the power of one of your opponent's characters, Makino is increasing the power of one of your 1-cost characters. So it is restricted to 1 cost. Excuse me. 2K counter as well, like Otama. But one thing that we do need to at least mention is Wano Country and Windmill Village are not exactly types that we're going to be going for, right? They're not exactly the types we're looking for, but that doesn't mean we can't use them. Okay, moving on next after that, we have Suru here. Suru is a Navy type character, so that's at least going to be able to get searched by one of our potential searchers, right? 1 cost, 2,000 counter, 0 power, on play, give up to one of your opponent's characters -2 to their cost during this turn. That's very strong, right? Like so that would make it where Garp can hit anyone that's a 9 cost or lower, like potentially, right? Because you'd play Suru first, dropping a 9 cost down to a 7, and now you can start tagging them with Garp's ability. So that is something we actually need to consider, and now we're dealing with something that goes with what we're trying to do. So let's definitely take Suru into consideration. Here's another Makino. This came out in Starter Set 8. This was the Black Luffy deck. It's an East Blue character, so that type is not really searchable for Black at the current moment, but it's still a pretty decent effect with Garp, because Garp can reduce cost, right? That's what we know about Garp. He can reduce the cost of characters. Well, on play, if there's a character with a cost of 0 in play, draw 1 card. So that is just at least something to think about. I think this is basically a light version of Kaya. I think Kaya is just strictly better. And this is what I think a lot of people, well, at least people like me, complain about, where you have a card like this, where this is a 2 cost 0 power card. That's a 2K counter. That's nice. It's East Blue. But this effect is very, very conditional. It says if there's a character with a cost of 0 in play, you get to draw a card. Well, real quick, we have to look at something that's it just seems a little bit unfair, because then we look at Kaya, and I'm going to blow it up for us. This card just flat out is 1 cost, so it's 1 less. They're both 2K counters. They're both 0 power. But this has on play, with no condition, draw 2 and trash 2 cards. And yeah, I hear what people are saying, like in their minds right now. I'm predicting what people are saying. They're like, well, yeah, but this just straight draws a card. You don't have to discard any. It's like, yeah, but anyone, I think, who plays One Piece would trade out Makino, this 2 cost Makino, for the 1 cost Kaya in any circumstance. Because you could just draw 2 and get rid of the cards you don't need. Right, it's a nice cycle effect. But it's still a draw card effect on a 2K counter, so we do have to at least consider it. Okay, moving on. So now we got Tony Chopper, just a 1 cost 1K blocker. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. It's just got a lot of utility. Now then we have Nami. This is the 1 cost 1,000 power 1,000 counter ST01 starter deck Nami that has activate main once per turn. Give your leader or one of your characters 1 Rested Dawn card. Okay, that's actually really good for us, right? Because remember, anytime we attach a Dawn through Garp's ability, we can subtract the cost of one of our opponent's characters, right, by 1. So that's actually very good, right? This has synergy with what we're trying to do. So Suru and Nami right away stand out to me. Tony Chopper does as well. He's not bad. He's just a little 1 cost blocker. It's better than nothing, but Otama and Makino not so much with what we've seen so far. But we will see other options they can combo with that are in red and black, or that are in Garp at least. Okay, so let's keep going. Next we have the 4 cost 1,000 power Kobe with a 1K counter. Navy card, so this is another relevant keyword like Suru has that we can search up with. But this card has activate main. You may rest this character and KO up to one of your opponent's characters with the cost of 2 or less. Okay, so now we reach the first question of how do we benefit from reducing the cost of a character, right, in red and black Garp. Like, okay, well, hey, if we needed to, if we have 6 Dawn on the board and our opponent has a 5 Dawn character, we could just attach all 6 Dawn to Garp if we wanted, and he'd be the character would be a 0, right? Or it'd be like a -1 technically, right? But we could reduce his cost down to 0. Okay, well, what do we do with that? How does that benefit us? What are we going to get out of that? Well, that's where we have to start looking at cards like Kobe, where, okay, if we can reduce a character's cost to 2 or less, we can actually just tap down Kobe and take the character out, right? So that's actually very beneficial. So that's something we need to consider. Kobe definitely has a lot of strength with what we're trying to do. And there's also, one thing you'll notice when we get to some of the black KO cards, they typically are going to cost you a card out of hand. Like you're going to have to trash a card from your hand to use the effect. Kobe gets around that entirely. So that is pretty nice, right? We need to definitely consider this card when making a deck. Next up, we have Nami. 1 cost, 2,000 power, 1,000 counter. This is the Searcher Nami. Look at 5 cards from the top of your deck. Develop 1 Straw Hat Crew type card other than Nami and add it to your hand. Then place the rest of the bottom of your deck in any order. Okay, not much to talk about here, but it is a Straw Hat searchable card for cards like the other Nami we have. Well, actually, it wouldn't even be able to grab this Nami, would it? That's kind of funny. I didn't think about that. So I guess this card's not really searchable with what we're trying to do until we get to Curly Dedan, or Curly Dedan. Oh, well, anyway, still a very good card. It's a great searcher and a good way to fill up the board early and get cards in our hand that we might need. Okay, let's keep going. Next up, we have Magra. 1 cost, 2,000 power, 1,000 counter. On play, up to one of your red characters with a cost of 1, gain plus 3,000 power during this turn. So it's like the more offensive version of Makino. Like instead of being a 2k counter, it's only a 1k counter. Instead of being 0 power, it's 2,000. And it has the same effect. But Magra's is on play, and Makino's is activate main. Just a card we need to consider in case we choose to go a more aggressive route with the deck, because that's something I didn't talk about. But what direction do we want to go with the deck? Do we want the deck to be more aggro, or do we want the deck to be a little more controlling, or maybe somewhere in the middle at mid-range? That's something we need to think about. Okay, so next up, let's keep going. We got Izo, another searcher. We got 2 searchers in a row here. They're both going to be 1 cost, 2,000 power, 1,000 counter searchers. But Izo is a Whitebeard pirate searcher, and Rebecca is a Dressrosa searcher. That's going to be for OP04, guys. We gotta hold our horses there. OP04 is around the corner, I know, but we gotta wait on Rebecca. Just 2 good searchers. I'm not going to spend too much time on them. Same idea with Nami, where if we want to go more Whitebeard Pirates, we need to lean towards Izo. If we want to lean more towards Straw Hat Crew, lean more towards Nami. And you see how that can be, how that can work out. Okay, who's next? So we got, we talked about Rebecca and Izo. Rosinante. Just a 2 cost, 2,000 power, searchable blocker for Navy. Just solid as is. Same thing with Fossa. 2 cost, 2,000 power, 1k counter blocker. That's what all of these are. EDO, he's the Dressrosa version. Sewer's another Navy version. And then we get to Buggy. And I just wanted to include these blockers, guys, because it's just something we at least need to think about building a deck. Like, if we need blockers, well, let's at least have some in mind that are searchable by some of our cards. Okay, so 1 cost, 3,000 power, 0 counter, Buggy. This is a searcher that looks for red event cards. It's unfortunate that it's not event cards, but that probably would have been just too strong, right? Anything that splashed red would probably just use this and be able to gear more towards events. Maybe not, who knows? But long story short, this is it's a good card still because it searches for red events. 1 cost, 3,000 power as well. That cannot be KO'd when battling / attribute characters and leaders. That's a big deal, right? Some characters, it's really annoying, right? Versus like a Zoro, right? When they can't, like Zoro can't just KO it, right? Because it's /. Anyway, you guys get the point there. Just a very good card. Okay, next up we got Monkey D. Luffy. This is, now we're getting to the 2 cost stuff. 2 cost, 3,000 power, 1,000 counter. This character has a Dawn ×2 effect of when this character, when you attach 2 Dawn to this character, he cannot be KO'd when battling strike attribute characters. So you see this kind of resilience from these cards, like how Buggy and this 2 cost Luffy are, how they kind of, yeah, they'll, you know, your opponent's still going to find a way to KO them, but it's nice to have that extra amount of protection, a little bit extra protection. And then activate main once per turn, give this character up to 2 of your Arrested Dawn cards. That's the more relevant ability. The Dawn ×2 is just nice. That's a nice added ability. But we're really more interested in that activate main once per turn, because now we can, you know, we can spend our Dawn on the turn and then still use abilities like this and like the Nami to get free Dawn attachments and free activations from our Garp. right, from our leader. So that is really nice. And that's going to give him to 5,000 power as well. So excellent, excellent, excellent. Now, he can only give it to himself. It says give this character up to 2 year rested on, but still, that's still very good. Okay, next up we have Curly Dedan. 2 cost, 3,000 power, 1,000 counter Searcher that looks at the top 5 cards for 1 red character card with a cost of 1 or less. Okay, so that's very good for anything we saw up here, like Magra, Nami, the other Nami, Tony Chopper, Makino, or Otama. You can just grab any of those, even an Izo, right? Or even a Buggy. Just infinite utility with Curly Dedan, or Dedan. Okay, next up we have a 2 cost, 3,000 power, 2,000 counter card in Monkey D. Garp. Now, this is a 2K counter. There's 2 2K counters coming up here that are just actually really good for Garp, period, no matter how you build it. They just work. They click with the leader. And this is one of them. Garp, of course, he makes sense being in a Garp deck, right? He has a Dawn ×2. When attacking, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. So you're attaching 2 Dawn, which is putting him at 5,000 power to swing over the standard threshold. And when you attach 2 Dawn, you're going to be able to combo that with your leader's ability to reduce the cost of something by 2, right? Which should get you in range of being able to KO their character, and now you're also smashing face for 5k or 6k or 7k, however much you need to put on, right? So that's just excellent. This is just excellent synergy with the Garp leader. Okay, next up we have Haruta. A 2 cost, 3,000 power, 1,000 counter, Whitebeard pirate searchable character. And by the way, Garp, of course, was Navy searchable, which we're going to talk about with brand new in a second. But Haruta, activate main once per turn, give up to 1 rested Dawn card to your leader or one of your characters. So again, we're getting free activations here. That's what's so nice about these cards. Not only are you buffing one of your characters and getting a rested Dawn card, getting more value out of a rested Dawn card, but you're also reducing the cost of one of their characters through your Garp's ability, so you can do more tricks, potentially, right? So something we definitely need to consider if we're going to build more towards Whitebeard Pirates. And one more with Whitebeard Pirates, they're just, in a row here, it's 2 in a row here. We got a Blamenko. He's a 2 cost, 3,000 power, 1,000 counter, Dawn ×1, when attacking, give up to one of your opponent's characters -2,000 power during this turn. So this goes back to the power manipulation. So it's something we're going to have to try to find a balance with. But I think it works very well with Whitebeard and Garp if you're going to run Blamenko. And if you're going to run Blamenko, then you would also want to run Izo for a searcher. And then eventually when we get down to it, I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but then you could search your Marcos and things that have synergy with the power manipulation. So this card has a lot of utility, especially if we choose to go a route with Whitebeard Pirates. Okay, just an interesting all-around card there. And again, if you attach 1 Dawn to him, it doesn't just make him 4,000 power, but it's also going to allow us to use an activation out of our Garp. So theoretically, like let's say we put 2 Dawn on this guy, right? So okay, well, and then we attack, right? Well, first we're going to reduce the cost of someone by 2 by attaching 2 Dawn to him. Then when we attack, we're going to get the when attacking of give up to one of your opponent's characters -2,000 power during this turn, and you're swinging for 5k with them. So you see where it starts getting like triple benefits, right? It just starts getting very, very beneficial for us. Okay, next up we have the 2 cost, 3,000 power, 1,000 counter Searcher and brand new. He's a Navy card. He looks at 3 cards from the top of the deck, revealing up to 1 Navy type card other than brand new, and adds it to your hand, then trash the remaining cards. The trash the remaining cards thing is whatever. That's more of a feature for the black decks. But it is something we'll probably be able to mess with if we choose to splash in the CP package with cards like, Fukuro. And I think I even put in, I put Bluno here, Khalifa. I didn't put in Kumadori, but that'll be another possibility as well. So that's something we got to think about as well. But anyway, just a 2 cost, 3,000 power Searcher for Navy. Just, Garp is Navy, so there's always going to be potential for that. And there's a few cards in Navy we're probably always going to want to run, right? Like Borsellino, Sakazukis, things like that. So something to think about. Okay, next up is the other 2,000 counter, 2 cost, 3,000 power character I was talking about with Garp, and it's Brook. So Brook is a on play, give your leader or one of your characters 2 rested Dawn cards. So I kind of see it as this. It's like you're getting for 2 cost, you're getting a free character into play, so board presence, and then you're also going to attach 2 Dawn cards to a leader or one of your characters, which is going to subtract the cost of somebody, and then, you know, do what you need to from there. And on the upside, it's searchable by Straw Hats, and it's a 2K counter for later in the game. So these two cards, Garp and Brook, really have my attention when it comes to 2K counters. They really grab my attention if I'm trying to make a Garp deck. So let's keep going though. But I feel like there's a lot going on there. Okay, next up we got Vista. Again, if we're going to try the Whitebeard Pirates thing, this is a card we have to consider. 3 cost, 3,000 power, 1,000 counter, on play, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power or less. So there's a way we're going to be able to benefit from the power reduction stuff from cards like Flamenco and Otama, the Searcher, right? Just some potential benefits, right? If we ever have to play those cards or run those cards in the deck. Not bad at all. Helps fight for board control as well, right? Okay, next up, let's just keep going. Let's go to Helmeppo now. 3 cost, 3,000 power, 1,000 counter. Trigger play this card, which is always nice. Just free play the card if you get it from life. And it has when attacking, give up one of your opponent's characters -2 to their cost. Then if there's a character with a cost of 0 in play, this character gains plus 2,000 power during this turn. Well, what happens if they're a 3 cost character? Right, what if you have to swing and they only have a 3 cost or higher character? Well, good news. With Garp, we just attach one Dawn to Helmeppo or Garp, whoever we need to attach it to, or whatever character we might have down. Reduce their costs by 1, and then we attack with Helmeppo. And now he gets the plus 2,000, and we get -2 to the cost of a character. So this card just makes a lot of sense in Garp. If it were to be in Garp, I don't know how many you'd want to run, maybe like 2 or 3 of, but potentially even a 4 of. It just depends on how we build the deck. And it's Navy searchable, so just a pretty good all-around card for what we're trying to do, Helmeppo is. Next up is Fukuro, 3 cost, 3,000 power, 1,000 counter blocker that cannot be KO'd by effects. Just incredible. It can still be bottom decked against blue decks, right? Or pushed back to hand. But generally speaking, this is a very sticky defender. So this is just a good card, and it's part of the CP package. All right, let's keep going. Next up, we have a 2K counter. That's a 3 cost, 3,000 power blocker, but this is from Dressrosa, so this does not come out to OP04. But again, this is a character we really have to keep our sights on. This is one of the most useful 2K counters, I think, in the game. There's a lot of useful 2K counters, but this one's up there, right? It's a 3 cost, 3K blocker that is a 2K counter. So, excellent. Okay, next up we have another 2K counter, 3 cost, 3,000 power. This one has Dawn ×2. So again, anytime we have a Dawn X whatever ability, Dawn times X ability, we're going to lean towards that with Garp, right? Because we're getting 2 activations. You're attaching 2 Dawn, so now for this turn, this character gains plus 2,000 power. He'll be a 7,000 power for 3 cost, right? But also, we're going to be able to reduce the cost of one of their characters by 2, right? That actually has a lot of, that actually can go a long way in this deck, right? So something we need to consider. And is a 2K counter. Very solid. This kind of gives me the same feel as Garp. It's almost like the red version of Garp for 3 cost. For the 2 cost, like the comparison there. Okay, next up we got Nico Robin. 3 cost, 4,000 power, 1,000 counter. Most people know this card, but I'm going to read it anyway. Dawn ×1. So again, we're reducing the cost by attaching a Dawn, making her 5,000 power, turning on her ability. When attacking, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power or less. Just a lot of synergy going on there. A lot of things that we like to see. We got to keep that in consideration. So next up is Asuka. This is an interesting card that doesn't see a lot of play, but which is surprising to me because so let's go ahead and read what she does. It's a 3 cost, 4,000 power, 1,000 counter Navy character. Attach 1 Dawn, so she gets the 5,000 power once per turn. When this character battles and KOs one of your opponent's characters, excuse me, set this character as active. So it's kind of like Green's version, or it's like Black's version of the green Basil Hawkins card. It's not quite as good as Basil Hawkins, right? Because Basil is a 5 cost 6K. This is a 3 cost 4K, so this is just easier to deal with in general. But maybe that's good in some regards too, right? Where it's like, okay, well, this is only a 3 cost, so we could just drop it right on turn 2 if we're on the play, right? Turn 1 Searcher, turn 2 Isuka or something like that, right? Something we have to think about. And in this case, we're attaching 1 Dawn, so we can reduce the cost of one character, smash into another, and then if it KOs it, then we set her back up, attack again. It just has a lot of utility in the deck, a lot of potential. Next up, we have the pretty standard 3 cost, 4,000 power, 1,000 counter Kobe character, which has on play, you may trash 1 card from your hand. Remember what I was saying earlier, you're typically going to have to trash a card from your hand to KO characters with Navy. It is what it is. But then you get to KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. So this has immense utility with Garp, right? Like with Garp, we can with the leader Garp, of course, right? We can easily attach Dawn even just to Garp himself, right? We can even attach Garp to the leader himself and start reducing the cost of characters down and get almost anything in the range of Kobe. Anything that's a 7 cost or lower, we can get in the range of Kobe, right? And then if we combine that with cards like Tashigi, which we're about to talk about, or Suru up here, where is she? Suru. Now we can get things that are within a cost of 9 or less, right? It just becomes very, very strong with Kobe. So this is a card we have to keep our sights on. This card does trash a card, which is going to be rough, but I think it will. How do I say it? No matter how we build the deck, this will always be a benefit in the deck as a one of, right? And then potentially more. But as a one of, we can always use this card. It's probably never going to be a dead card in hand unless they have characters that cannot be KO'd, in which case, then we have other issues on our hands, right? So okay, so let's keep going. So next up is Smoker. This is the 3 cost, 4,000 power, 1,000 counter Smoker. This character cannot be KO'd by effects, so it's like Fukuro, where you just can't KO this character by effects. And then when attacking, if there's a character with a cost of 0 in play, this character gains plus 2,000 power during this battle. So, and we're going to look at another card over here in Zoro, the 3 cost, 5,000 power, Dawn times 1 Zoro. We actually have 3 possible 3 cost, 7,000 power characters in this deck. I think that's something we need to consider. Because the Monkey D. Luffy 2K counter, the Smoker, the 3 cost 2K counter Luffy, the 3 cost 1,000 counter Smoker, and the 3 cost no counter Zoro, all of these cards are essentially 3 cost 7,000 powers in this deck. That's something we do need to think about at some point if we want to keep going, with a deck like this. It has to at least be in our minds, right? Because I think there's potential there. Okay, so next we have Tashigi, 3 cost, 4,000 power, 2,000 counter. Not a whole lot to talk about here. Pretty straightforward. Activate main. You may rest this character. Give up to one of your opponent's characters -2 to their cost during this turn. Okay, it's like the more aggressive version of Suru, right? Instead of a 1 cost 0 power, you got a 3 cost 4,000 power. Both are 2K counters, and both can give -2 to the cost. Now, unfortunately, Tashigi's is an activate main. Well, it's fortunately and unfortunately, right? It's a double-edged sword. Like typically, Suru, you just drop her down and boom, -2. There's no other actions needed, and now we have her back there, in the back lines for the rest of the game unless they deal with her. Tashigi has to tap down for this or rest, so she's probably going to take it out immediately, right? But I don't know, if they don't, then you get additional advantage from her. So it is something to consider. Next up is a 4 cost 4,000 power Uda. This has on play return up to 1 red character other than Uda with a cost of 3 or less from your trash to your hand. So this is going to be good for getting back Zoros, getting back cards like Luffy, Robin, any kind of 2K counters up here we might have used, get them back to your hand. Searchers, you name it. Just a decent card to think about. Next up, we got 4 cost, 4,000 power, 2,000 counter. Well, I was going to say rusher, potential rusher, but not for us. This is only if it's Whitebeard Pirates to get the rush effect. So that's okay, though. That's okay. It's still a 4 cost, 4,000 power, 2K counter. That's searchable for Whitebeard Pirates in case we go that route. Next up is Khalifa, another 4 cost, 4,000 power counter, or 4,000 power, 2,000 counter that has CP9 searchable. And on play, draw 2, trash 2, and then -2 to one of your opponent's characters. Great utility card, and if we choose to run the CP package, this will be an ideal candidate for the 2K count for one of the 2K counter slots. Excuse me. Sorry, my throat's dry now. So next we have 3 cost, 5,000 power Rush Zoro. Everyone knows what this does. Nothing to really talk about here. Everyone knows what this does. If we choose to go more aggro, I think this will be very strong. Or even just as a 2 of, maybe it's just a card as a 1 or 2 of, we just splash in the deck as a tech choice, because that's always a possibility too, right? Just, one ofs and 2 ofs that could potentially go a long way, that have a lot of utility. Because with a card like Zoro, he's a 3 cost 5K where, you don't have to go at their face, right? You can go at characters with Zoro and try to take stuff out where it's like, okay, let's just say they have a 3,000 power character. We play Zoro for 3, smash into their character and KO it. If they spend an entire attack next turn trying to take him out, okay, well, that's fine for us, right? We don't mind. We're actually okay with that. That buys us time. Okay, because remember, we're only going to have 4 life because it's a dual-colored deck. Okay, next up is Tashigi. 3 costs 5,000 power, 0 counter Tashigi. This has Dawn ×1 when attacking. Give up one of your opponent's characters, -3 to their cost during this turn. So with Garp, that's basically Dawn ×1 -4 to their cost. That's pretty good, but it doesn't have a counter. We always have to consider cards that don't have counters. How many can you really afford to have in the deck? Like, I would say probably somewhere under 15. Like, realistically under 10. But, like, under 15 cards in your deck with no counter on them. Like, you know what I mean? That at least that, in my mind, that makes sense. Y'all tell me what y'all think about that. But we do have to consider her at least because 3 costs 5k, that's right on curve for a vanilla card that has the additional effect of if you attach 1 Dawn to her, boom, -1 cost with Garp, and then attack and -3 cost with Tashigi. That seems pretty nice. I just don't, the only problem I have with Tashigi in this deck is I don't think we're going to struggle reducing cost. So it's like, okay, who would you rather have without it? Since she has no counter, who would you rather have? This Zoro or this Zoro to the next, on both sides of her? You would almost always rather have those. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Okay, moving on over to the next Zoro. It's a 3 cost 5,000 power Zoro that has Dawn ×1. This character gains plus 1,000 power. And that Dawn ×1 effect is not on your turn only. That is a Dawn ×1 effect, how do you say it? Just period. Like, it is just a Dawn ×1. It's not your turn. It's not your opponent's turn. So if you attach 1 Dawn to him, he's a 7,000 attacking. But on defense, he's still a 6,000. That's a 3-cost card. That's going to be a 7k. That's very powerful. Okay, so let's keep going. So next up we have Brook. 4 costs, 5,000 power, 1,000 counter. This card has Dawn ×1. So there's that magical little, condition we're looking for to get additional effects from. When attacking, give up to 2 of your opponent's characters -2,000 power during this turn. So he'll swing for 6,000. He'll give 2 characters -2,000 potentially to your opponent's characters, and you'll reduce the cost of somebody by 1 all in the process. So very nice. Next up is Blocker Marco. If we choose to go Whitebeard Pirates, this is an auto-include as a 1-of. Just very strong defensive card with lots of resilience. And we're going to be at 2 life almost instantly every game, right? So this is just almost a no-brainer auto-include for what we're trying to do. Excuse me, guys. All right. Next up, we have Kuzan. This is a 4 cost 5,000 power Kuzan. No counter, but on play, draw a card. And then when attacking, give up one of your opponent's characters -4 to their cost during this turn. We probably won't need this card in Garp. Just I have to always include him because he does have a lot of value built in. But for what we're trying to do, I don't think this card does much for us. Other than something very important, draw a card. Card draw will be very limited in the deck that we're building for Garp. So Kuzan might be an auto-include for that reason alone. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, my voice is starting to dry out. But for that reason alone, we might have to include Kuzan. So, okay, let's just keep going. Next up is Borsalino. I would consider this an auto-include in anything that splashes black. Almost no matter what. At least in OP03. In OP04, there's going to be more options. We'll have access to Sabo, but you'll probably still run Borsalino. You know what I mean? It's one of those cards that's just incredible for what you're getting so much for what you're paying for him. You typically always want this card in a black deck. 4 costs, 5,000 power, 1,000 counter, defends for 6,000, and cannot be KO'd on defense, and is a blocker. So, yeah, there's that. Okay, next up is coming out in OP04 that I think is actually going to be really, really strong in Garp, and that's Trafalgar Law. 4 costs, 5,000 power, 1,000 counter. On play, you may rest one of your leaders, KO up to one of your opponent's characters that costs 1 or less. Now, yes, this is meant for Dressrosa. Okay, it says it right on there. There's no need for imagination. It's meant for Dressrosa. It's meant for Rebecca, the new leader Rebecca coming out. But I still don't think that's that bad. If you just need an effect, because otherwise you could just play him normally, right? Like, okay, if they don't have anything I need to deal with, it's a 4 cost 5k, it's a 1k counter, it's one off of a vanilla curve. But then it also has this effect for late in the game where you can just start smacking things down. So I do think that's at least worth the consideration. Okay, let's keep going. Next up we have Hina. 5 cost, 6,000 power, 1,000 counter blocker. On block, choose up to one of your opponent's characters with the cost of 6 or less. That's a lot, guys. That's most characters in the game, right? 6 or less. Then choose. The chosen character cannot attack during this turn. So this is now. Yes, Garp's effect doesn't really help Hina because Garp is on your turn when his abilities happen or when his effects go off. See, your turn. And Hina is blocking defensively, so you don't get to reduce the opponent's cost. Even though there is a way to do it, if you block with Bluno first and get back a Khalifa, you can drop their cost by 2 and block an 8 and tap down an 8 or less technically, or not tap down, but make it where they can attack. But that's way too technical. You know, the chances of that ever happening are very, very low. You know, it's not really what you're going to be building your deck around. It's more of a nuanced type situation. Okay, so Hina is very strong, though. It's a 5 cost, 6,000 power blocker with a 1k counter. That alone is already good, but then it also has this on block ability to just shut down another character. So you think of it like this. If they swing for 7, right? Okay, no problem. I'll just block with Hina. You know, tap her down to, or, you know, rest her to block. Excuse me. 2k counter out of the 7k attack, and then make it where they're 6 or less... Their cost of 6 or less character over there cannot attack. Very, very powerful. So we definitely have to consider this if we go a more defensive route. Okay, next up is Marco. Pretty much an auto-include if we're going Whitebeard Pirates. 5 cost, 6,000 power, 1,000 counter, just like Hina. But this is an offensive card that has on your turn, on play, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power or less. Very solid. I don't have to talk too much about that one. Next up, we have Kaku. This is a 5 cost, 6,000 power, 1,000 counter. A lot of these in a row, right? A lot of 5 cost, 6,000 power cards in a row. And, excuse me, pretty much all 6 of these cards, 7 of these cards are all that way, right? Kaku has, you may return 2 cards with CP in its type from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order. KO up to one of your opponent's characters with the cost of 3 or less. Okay, now this is more what we need, right? This is a KO effect that doesn't cost us cards from hand. Like, we don't have to trash cards from our hand. We're just returning CP cards to the bottom of our deck, right? So if we do decide to go a CP package, Kaku needs to be a very high consideration, right? And instead of like a 4 cost Kuzan, what I should have on here, let me go back up to the top. Let me go full screen and get a Kumadori on here. There we go. So that way, where did Kumadori line up? Down here. So that way we could get him back from the trash as well, or potentially put him back from the trash on the bottom of our library to activate Kaku's effect. So this is a card we definitely have to think about. Next up we have Bluno. 5 cost, 6,000 power, 1,000 counter, Dawn ×1. Okay, so that's actually not bad for us, right? Because remember, whenever we attach a Dawn, first of all, he becomes 7,000 power. Second of all, he becomes a blocker. And third, we get our Garp's effect, right? On KO, play up to one character card with the cost of 4 or less with CP and its types from your trash and rest it. So we'll be able to grab Kumadori. We'll be able to grab cards like Khalifa. We'll be able to grab Fukuro. We'll be able to grab the... I don't think I put on here the 2 cost blocker. But anyway, or maybe there isn't one. There might not be a 2 cost CP9 blocker. Sorry, guys. Y'all help me out if I ever mess anything up in the comment section below. But okay, solid card. If we choose to go CP, this will probably be an auto-include for the recursion and as an additional blocker and so on. Infinite possibilities there. So next up we have Pell. This is OP04 again. 5 cost, 6,000 power, Dawn ×1. When attacking, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 4,000 power or less. Now, this is Alabasta Kingdom. This is geared more towards a Vivi deck, the Nefeltari Vivi. But I don't think we should just overlook it because of that. Like, I still think this card has some potential in the deck that we'd be trying to build, right? Because you could even see it like this. Okay, you could Okay, so 5 cost, 6,000 power. You play this card. That's already decent stats, right? It's not quite vanilla stats, but it's decent. But then next turn, okay, we attach 1 Dawn to KO, you know, basically to KO whoever their 4,000 powers or less when we swing for 7k. But then it's also contributing to dropping the cost for something like a Kobe or a Monkey D. Garp we're about to talk about right here, or whatever else we have on the board. Excuse me. So that is, I think this card is at least worth considering. It's not searchable by anything that we want right now, but it still could potentially be good in the future. We'll have to see. Okay, next up we got 5 cost, 6,000 power Sabo, Dressrosa Revolutionary Army. This card is insane for those who haven't seen it yet. This is a 5 cost, 6,000 power, 1,000 counter blocker. And the on play is your characters cannot be KO'd by card effects until the start of your next turn. Draw 2, trash 2. So you're cycling through 2 cards. Your characters are basically invulnerable for 1 turn. Not through battle. They can still die in battle, right, or get KO'd in battle. But I think you guys get my point. That just that's really nice, guys. That is a very nice effect, and it's a blocker. The cycle, everything about it. So once we get into OP04, this will be a serious consideration. Okay, next up we have Monkey D. Luffy, 5 cost, 6,000 power rusher that can become unblockable when you attach 2 Dawn. And what happens when we attach 2 Dawn? We can subtract the cost of characters. So that's a big deal. And that will line up perfectly with Monkey D. Garp right next to him here, the 5 cost, 6,000 power character. Because realistically what we can do is play Monkey D. Garp on turn 3. Say we're on the odd curve, right? We're on the play. We'll play Monkey D. Garp on turn 3. And just don't use his effect yet, if you can, you know, get around not using his effect. And then next turn, you can play Luffy, attach 2 Dawn to him, subtract someone's cost by 2, and now you're hitting a 6 or less with Garp's ability right here. For those who don't know Garp's ability, trash 1 card in your hand, rest this character, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less. So again, if you attach 2 Dawn to Luffy, you can drop it down by 2, so you're hitting like a 6 or less, right? Very solid. Okay, that wraps up both of those. All right, let's keep going. We're almost done with the characters, and then we're going to talk about some events. So next up is a 6 cost, 6,000 power promotional rarity character called Monkey D. Luffy. I don't think this card's going to be insane for us, but it actually does make a lot of sense in a Garp deck. Because it has Dawn ×1. When attacking, you may trash 1 card from your hand, and then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. Okay, so that does have a place to at least consider as our 6-drop. But at the same time, I do feel like it gets slightly outclassed by one of the other cards we're about to talk about in Sakazuki. But still something to think about. Okay, so let's keep going. Next up, we have Smoker, 5 cost, 7,000 power. This character cannot be KO'd by card effects. That is always something that will grab my attention. And anytime I'm building a deck, if there's a card that says this character cannot be KO'd by card effects, or if it has an effect like Marco, where you can return it from the trash by trashing a card, that is always attractive in my mind as a deck builder. So yeah. And then on top of that, Smoker is actually probably better in Garp, in a Garp deck than a Smoker deck. Because Dawn ×1, as long as there is a character that costs 0 in play, this character gains double attack. Yes, please, right? Yes, and thank you. That's going to be very easy for us to do with Garp. In fact, if we want to get a double attack through and they have a 4-cost character in play, we can just load 4 Dawn on Smoker to turn him into an 11k double attack and reduce the cost of their 4 cost down to 0. And then we'd still have 3 Dawn left, right, if we were on the play there. So, I mean, it's just, yeah, there's a lot of possibilities there. Smoker is extremely good for what we're trying to do. Next up is Sakazuki, 6 cost, 7,000 power, on play, trash card from your hand, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. Okay, everyone kind of knows what this card does at this point, unless you're a newer player. Very powerful card, but you do have to trash a card from hand. Though I will say, in a deck like this, it doesn't seem quite as bad, because you are, you're gonna, how do I say this? With the black cards, typically you have to use 1 card from your hand to drop the cost of a character, and then another card in your hand to pop the character, which will also cost you another card to trash, right? Well, with Sakazuki in a Garp deck, you could just attach Dawn to Garp and do it if you needed to, right? And I don't know, that just, I think he makes a lot of sense in a deck like this. Very strong effect. But yeah, other than that, I would like to include characters in the deck that don't trash cards, because it's just, it's kind of crippling to your deck later in the game. But we'll see. We can't always get around that. We'll do what we got to do. All right, so next up is 6 cost, 7,000 power, Rob Lucci, CP9 character. You may return 2 cards with CP9 in its types from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order. This character gains rush during this turn. Okay, so for what we're trying to do, you know, this card doesn't make a lot of sense in it unless we go the more aggro route with Luffy. Like maybe there's a CP9 Straw Hat version of the deck that's just going to be really solid where we got lots of rushers and like Luffy and Zoro and whatnot. But other than that, not really what we're going for. But I did at least want to include it because it has potential as CP9. Next up is Isho. 8 cost, 9,000 power Isho. Dawn times 1. Your turn. All of your opponent's characters get -3 to their cost. All of your opponent's characters get -3 to their cost. So this is very important to understand an interaction. What happens here? Remember what Garp says. Sorry if y'all can't read it very well, but it's whenever you attach Dawn to this leader or one of your characters, give up to one of your opponent's 7 cost or lower characters -1 to their cost during this turn. Sorry guys, it's really hard to read that picture. Don't worry, it's not just y'all. It's like actually hard to read it. But here's the thing. If you have Isho on the board, sorry I gotta scroll through like this, guys. If you have Isho on the board, guess what? When you attach 1 Dawn to him, that effect happens immediately. Now all of your opponent's characters get -3 to their cost, and then you can do Garp's effect of subtracting their cost of one character, one of your opponent's characters' cost by 1 further, right? So in other words, excuse me, if they have a 10 cost character down and you have Isho down, you can attach Dawn to Isho. Now they're a 7. Their 10 cost character is now a 7 or less, and you can hit them with Garp's ability right away with the Dawn you attached to Isho. So with 1 attachment to Isho, you can reduce their 10 cost character down to a 6. And that's something worth actually thinking about. Like that has a lot of potential, and it gets every character in the game in the range of your Garp, right? Of your Garp's leader effect. So very powerful there, and we all know his on-play effect. If your opponent has 6 or more cards in their hand, trash 2 cards from your opponent's hand. Very nice. Okay, next up we have Edward Newgate. 9 cost, 10,000 power. Everyone kind of knows this card, right? You can only have 1 in your deck, right? At the time he's saying this in the West because there's a restriction on it. But on play, up to one of your leaders gains plus 2,000 power until the start of your next turn. Then you cannot add cards from your life area to your hand by your effects during this turn. That's more geared towards the Newgate leader's ability, or leader's effect. But then it also has, the next turn basically, Dawn times 2 when attacking, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 3,000 power or less. That's actually important now, right? Because I mean, it's always important, but it's even more important in a Garp deck because it's okay. You attach 2 Dawn. And now when you attack, you can KO a 3 or less, and you also can reduce the cost of one of their characters by 2 to set up a KO with something like a Sakazuki or a Kobe, right? So just dual, it's like dual utility. Like anytime we can get that extra options, it's a good thing, right? Okay, so next up we got Shanks, 9 cost, 10,000 power. This is a red-haired Pirates, unfortunately. Like, Edward Newgate's Whitebeard Pirates searchable, Isho's Navy searchable, CP9 Navy. These next 2 are not searchable, unfortunately, but they're still very powerful characters that we do have to talk about their effects. Shanks is a 9 cost, 10,000 power, like I said. On play, you may trash 1 card from your hand, KO all characters with a cost of 1 or less. So that's not incredible at face value, but you'd want to combo it with this card next to it, Kuzan, or the card we just went over, Isho. That's kind of the idea. Now with Isho, it's really incredible in Garp, right? Because you play Isho on turn 4 on the curve. That's ideally what's going to happen, right? And then on turn 5, the next turn when you're at 10 Dawn, you attach 1 Dawn to Isho, subtract everyone's cost by 3, one person's cost by 4, and then you play Shanks, trashing a card from hand, KOing everything. That's a 4 or less, and 1 guy that was a 5 or less, right? So that has excellent utility, right? But it's just kind of impractical, unfortunately. It just doesn't line up. It's just not practical, like I said. By turn 5, if you didn't play something incredible before, Whitebeard or Zoro or Luffy, whoever is just running you over. So, you gotta, even Katakuri's going to run you over if you don't play something strong enough against them. So it kind of just requires the perfect setup and the perfect pull. But it's still worth thinking about. Maybe if the format ever slows down in the future or something, I don't know, then this combo might be very strong. Okay, last but not least, from the characters, we got Kuzan here. This is 10 cost, 10,000 power Kuzan. Your turn. All of your opponent's characters get -5 to their cost. And on play, he comes in and KOs up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 0. And by the way, that's of course that hits everything that's 5 or less, right? Because when he comes into play, your turn effect happens immediately, and then you choose an on play. When he comes into play, you choose who to KO of that. Very strong, very strong. Okay, not much more to talk about there. It combos extremely well with Shanks because now it's KOing everything that's a 6 or less. Just a lot of potential there. Very powerful. Okay, let's keep going. So now we've got some events we're going to talk about, and then we're going to finally look at some decks that I've got brewing that I've got in my mind, see what you guys think about it, get some comments from y'all, see which direction y'all think I should go with it, or which one y'all think is the best way to go. Okay, so first up is Radical Beam. Don't have to talk much about this. Radical Beam in our deck, though, is going to be incredible, right? Because you start off with 4 life, so you're going to get to 2 life extremely quickly. But unfortunately, you can only have 1 in your deck because of recent restrictions. It is what it is. It's unfortunate, but, you do what you got to do. Easy, auto-include in no matter what Garp deck we run, to be honest. 1 cost, 4,000 counter when you're at 2 or less life. And then the trigger, plus 1,000 power for the turn to your leader or one of your characters. Okay, next up is Whitebeard Pirates. This is just a 1 cost, 5, look at the top 5 card, Whitebeard Pirates character search. This can only look up characters that are Whitebeard Pirates, by the way. It cannot look up just any Whitebeard Pirate. It has to be characters. Ezo can look up pretty much anything, but other than an Ezo. I guess they do that to get away from, chaining a Whitebeard Pirates into another Whitebeard Pirates into another Whitebeard Pirates, and Ezos into Ezos into Ezos. So you guys get the idea there. Next up is Guard Point, just 1 cost, 3,000 power counter, excellent card, and it has, plus 1,000 power for the turn if you hit on the trigger like Rad Beam does. The auto-include, probably an auto-include no matter what build we run it in, right? And we're going to look at cards that are pretty much, some of these cards are probably going to be auto-includes in no matter what version of Garp we play, because they're just too strong, right? They're just too good for the events. Next up is Diablo Jambe. So if we go Straw Hat Crew, this will probably be an auto-include because it's a 1 cost, choose your leader or one of your characters with a Straw Hat Crew trait. During this turn, your opponent cannot activate blocker when that leader or character attacks. Okay, that is... Just keep this in mind for OP04, guys, when we get to it. OP04 is definitely going to have a character that I don't have in here for some reason. Hang on a second. I don't know why he's not in here, actually. My apologies, guys. This card named Luffy. And let me see if I got King Kong Gun in here. Okay. I don't think I did. Sorry about that, guys. Let me zip down to the bottom. I did have King Kong Gun. Okay. So, where were we? We got to go back real quick and talk about Luffy, guys. For some reason, I didn't have him on here. 7 cost, 7,000 power character, no counter. But this character can attack active characters and activate main once per turn. You may return 7 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order. Set this character to active. Then, during your next refresh phase, this character cannot be set to active. Okay, so let's consider that with Diablo Jambe, right? Y'all see how Luffy is a Dressrosa Straw Hat Crew? So he's searchable by Nami, by the way. Just keep that in mind. Nami, where is she? Look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 Straw Hat Crew type card other than Nami, and add it to your hand. So literally, you're going to be able to search up the 7 cost, 7k power Luffy. And now consider that, let's just do perfect case scenario, right? If you can get this Luffy and a Diablo Jambe and a King Kong Gun, that's only 3 cards, and this would be late in the game. You would just be defending and trying to survive until then. All of a sudden, you're swinging for 13k. Double attack, as long as you have 15 cards in your library or in your trash or more. And then Diablo Jambe, all of a sudden, okay, it's an unblockable, put 2 Dawn on him. Why not, right? Make it where he swings for 15k. Just put 2 Dawn on him, make him swing for 15k with double attack, unblockable, and then on the second swing, activate his main so he swings for it again. That just seems like it's going to be so good. But again, that's OP04. And we got to wait till we get to there. We got to be patient. Okay, let's keep going. Sorry about that, guys. It went off on a little rabbit trail because for some reason that card wasn't in there. So Diablo Jambe also has an incredible trigger as well. KO up to one of your, it actually just says KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less with blocker. Okay, very good. Next up, we have Gum Gum Red Hawk. 2 cost, 4,000 power counter that KOs one of your opponent's characters with 4,000 power or less. And trigger, give up to one of your opponent's leader or characters minus 10,000 power during this turn. Okay, that trigger can definitely win you a game, and so can the counter. It's 2 cost, 4,000 power counter. The KO is just added on. It's just nice to have 2 cost, 4,000 power counters. And then that trigger, give up to one of your opponent's leaders or characters minus 10k during the turn. So yeah, you're not swinging now, right? There's like no way. Very nice. So next up is Meteor Volcano. I actually think this will be a 4 of in whatever Garp deck we build. It's too easy to activate for us as Garp. And on top of that, it has a very good trigger. Like, draw 2 cards and trash 1 card from your hand. That's excellent. That's very excellent. And we're going to talk about Gum Gum Pistol and Tempest Kick Sky Slicer, because both of these cards need to be considered. Now, Meteor Volcano is slightly better than Tempest Kick Sky Slicer, in my opinion, because it's Navy. But the trigger is better on Tempest Kick Sky Slicer. But here's the thing. For those who might be wondering, like, well, why wouldn't I run Gum Gum Pistol? Because that KOs a 2 or less Dawn we have to attach to Garp to get the effect. Well, it costs 1 more. And so, in other words, Meteor Volcano is just a cheaper version of Gum Gum Pistol in our deck. Right? It's 1 cost less. Because, so say they have a 2 cost or less in play where we can't hit with Meteor Volcano. Well, no problem. We buff one of our other characters to reduce the costs, and then we KO. Right? So, in other words, if they have a 5 cost character in play, let's just use this example for a second, guys. Bear with me. If they have a 5 cost character in play we want to take out, well, Meteor Volcano says attach 3 Dawn, or excuse me, you'll attach 4 Dawn to your character, right, to one of your characters, your leaders, or however you want to split it, and then you'll pay 2 to KO it, and you'll swing with 4,000 extra Dawn power, right? Well, guess what? With Gum Gum Pistol, if they have a 5 cost character in play, you're going to attach 3 Dawn to however you want to do it between your leader and your characters, and then you have to pay 3 to KO it. So do you see where you're actually getting more value out of Meteor Volcano with Garp than you are with Gum Gum Pistol? If that doesn't make sense, I'll try to explain in the comment section below if someone has a question on that. But long story short, Meteor Volcano is actually just better than Gum Gum Pistol and Tempest Kick Sky Slicer. Because Tempest Kick Sky Slicer costs 2, whereas Meteor Volcano it costs 2 as well, but it KOs a 1 or less. So in other words, you're having to invest more to take them lower for the same result as Meteor Volcano. Do you see what I'm saying? Hopefully that made sense. If it doesn't, like I said, just ask in the comment section below and I'll type out the response. But long story short, Meteor Volcano is just strictly better. Even though Tempest Kick Sky Slicer has a better trigger, and it has a little more utility, right, where it can take out stages, Meteor Volcano is just slightly more practical for what we're trying to do. But Tempest Kick Sky Slicer is definitely something we need to consider. Gum Gum Pistol, not as much, but we'll get down to that in a second. Okay, next up is Impact Wave. 2 costs, 4,000 power counter, KOs a 3 or less, that's active. But the trigger KOs a 4 or less, no matter what their orientation is, active or rested. So just incredible. This is probably going to be a 4 of in whatever deck we build. It is what it is. It's so good. Fire Fist, if we choose to go down like a Whitebeard Pirates or a Buggy style list, I think this card will be very good for us. It'll help us stabilize early. 3 cost, discard 1 event from your hand. So we would have to build heavy into events. We'll need 4 Impact Waves. We'll need 4 Meteor Volcano, maybe 2 Guard Points, Rad Beam, stuff like that. And if we're going to get Whitebeard Pirates, we're probably going to need the Whitebeard Pirates event. So we can always for sure get off our Fire Fist, and we'll see. We'll have to talk about it. But this KOs a 5,000 power or less and a 4,000 power or less. Extremely powerful. This is the card that every color I think wanted, to be honest. Like this is the kind of event that I think every single color wanted, but red got it. Go figure. Okay, next up we have Gum Gum King Kong Gun. This is a 3 cost Dressrosa Straw Hat Crew event, so searchable by Nami, right? Up to one of your Dressrosa type characters gains plus 6,000 power during this turn. Then, if you have 15 or more cards in your trash, that card gains double attack during this turn. And that trigger is nothing to scoff at either. Draw 3, trash 2. That is an excellent, excellent trigger. Very powerful trigger. This is everything we want if we're going to go the Dressrosa Straw Hat Crew setup, which I think is something I'm going to talk about in one of the videos, or excuse me, in one of the examples I have lined up for us. It's very powerful. Like it's potentially very powerful. Let me say it like that. Okay. Next up is Gum Gum Pistol. We talked a little bit about. Yes, I think this is probably better in any other deck other than Garp. Like in Smoker, I think this is probably a better card because you can't always just keep reducing their cost like you can with Garp. In Smoker, you can only do the -1 one time from the leader's effect. Well, then Gum Gum Pistol probably is a little better because, you know, then you could hit a 3 or less, whereas you could only hit a 2 or less with Meteor Volcano. But with Garp, Gum Gum Pistol is just not quite as good. It's just math. It's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, sorry, it's just simple math. There's no way around it. Now, there might be some argument, like I said, for another leader, but with Garp, I would always rather, because think about it like this, like I said, use the exact same situation where it's like, okay, well, Gum Gum Pistol can hit a 2 or less, whereas Meteor Volcano can only hit a 1 or less. Well, nope. Not with Garp. Garp says, okay, now Meteor Volcano costs 3, and I reduce the cost for it. You know what I mean? But it doesn't cost 3. That's the best part. You just attach one Dawn to Garp, you subtract its cost, and then you pay the 2, and you KO the 2 or less, just like Gum Gum Pistol wanted to do. So it's just strictly a better card. Sorry, guys. Meteor Volcano is over Gum Gum Pistol for what we're trying to do. Now, one thing to consider is Gum Gum Pistol is Straw Hat searchable. So if we go Straw Hat Crew, that would be the only consideration I would be able to give Gum Gum Pistol. Is, you know, maybe as a 1 or a 2 of in the deck. But Meteor Volcano is probably just going to be a 4 of in every deck we run, I think. Maybe not. We'll see. Okay, next up, we only got 3 left. So Round Table. This is a main. Give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 10,000 power during this turn. Sorry, you can't see that very well. But it's give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 10,000 power during this turn. Not really searchable either by anything we're trying to do. So it's just kind of a tech card that I included. It's just going to be good for taking out the really big characters. Like if you're playing against like a Katakuri deck and they swing sideways with Big Mom, okay, we'll just minus 10,000 of power and just smash her for 6k or something, right? Something like that. But just something to think about. I don't think this card's incredible for what we're trying to do, but it is at least something worth thinking about. Next up is Truno Bastardo, 4 cost. This is coming out in OP04. This is a Dressrosa card. Choose up to one of your opponent's characters. I can't even see because of this thing. Hang on 1 second, guys. Sorry. There we go. Okay, choose up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less and KO it. If you have 15 or more cards in your trash, choose up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less instead of a character with a cost of 4 or less. And then trigger. The trigger's not very relevant for what we're doing with Garp. Garp's probably always going to attack every turn it can. But the trigger is you may rest your leader, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. Okay, very good. Very solid. But ultimately, it's for the main effect. This will only be something we search for if we're going for the Dressrosa package. But in the Dressrosa package, like I said, see, here's where Meteor Volcano is just unbelievable. Like, it's actually just so good, right? So say they have a 4 cost or less, right? Okay, well, we'll have to pay 4 to KO it, right? Or you could pay 5, or, you know, use 5 Dawn, and give plus 3,000 power to your characters and then KO it. Now, yes, you can still give, you know, you can spend 5 in the same way for Truno Bastardo, but you'll only give plus 1,000 power to your characters. Now, don't get me wrong, Truno Bastardo is much closer in value to Meteor Volcano is in this deck. It's much closer in value to Meteor Volcano in this deck. I'm sorry, guys, I can't even talk right now. But no, seriously. Because notice this. So for 2, you're getting a 1 or less. For 3, you're getting a 2 or less. But for 4, you're getting a 4. See how that's an exact, like, cost to value, or, you know, cost to cost value ratio, however you want to say that. It's the same thing with Jet Pistol, right? A 4 cost character has 6,000 power vanilla stats. So you're easily getting your value from Jet Pistol because you're KOing a 4 or less easily with Jet Pistol, and potentially more than a 4 or less, by the way, in some situations, like especially if you combo with Otama, or if it's just a 5-cost 6K, right? There's situations like that as well, like with blockers. So anyway, yeah, that just, hopefully that puts the perspective on how powerful Jet Pistol is. It's just unbelievable, because 6,000 power is kind of like this critical point in the game, right? Like where you try to get every character 5,000 or higher. So you usually get something at 5,000 or 6,000. And certain characters get up to 7,000, right? Or 8,000 before you get into the super unique, powerful characters. But then you just throw an Otama to the mix and you can minus 2K them and deal with them with Jet Pistol. Just incredible. Okay. So that about wraps up the overall, the deck tech part of it, right? Where we analyze all the cards, the comprehensive card list of what we need to think about. And there's a few other cards I did not include, by the way. There are definitely some other cards to talk about, like let me get it where it's there are like probably 2 or 3 more that I wanted to look at. Let me sort by cost. Okay. Like one right away is 6 King Pistol. We didn't talk about. You may trash 1 card for hand, and then up to one of your leader characters gains plus 3,000 power during this turn. Trigger, draw a card, and KO 1 or less. So like this is a good card that we didn't have in the list. And there's also a 1-cost card from Dressrosa as well. Here it is. Airdor that I did not include. Up to one of your leaders or character cards gains plus 2,000 power during this turn. Then, if you have 15 or more cards in your trash, that card gains an additional plus 2,000 power during this battle. Or excuse me, it was during this battle, not during this turn. Sorry, guys. And then it has a trigger of draw 2, trash 1. Just really good. Like these are 2 cards I should have added. In fact, I'm just adding them right now, to be honest with you, because they're just so good. And there are other cards we could have talked about. Not so much Ice Age, but like Yasakani Sacred Jewel. You may trash 1 card from your hand, choose up to one of your characters. That character cannot be KO'd during this battle. And notice it's not one of your black characters. You can choose a red character or a black character. So that's something that's definitely worth considering in a deck we're trying to build. But at the same time, you only have so much space in a deck, right? But in a deck where we're going to run a lot of events or very event heavy, we might want to consider this. And then trigger K up to one of your opponent's stage cards with the cost of 3 or less. The trigger's not as relevant, but it's still something. Okay, Spandam we can't even run, unfortunately, because it's leader locked. And let me see. I have to bring it over from the main page because it's actually wrong on here. Like if you, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Let me, hang on a second. Okay, let me, I've messed everything up. Boop, boop, boop. All right, there we go. Sorry about that, guys. Now let me get back to full screen. If you read what they have on here for Spandam, it's not correct. It says, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 card with CP and its types other than Spandam, and add it to your hand, then trash the remaining cards. I'm going to read you what the card actually says over here. Hang on a second. I'll bring it over. Okay. So this is from the official One Piece card list or card site. This is how the card actually reads. If your leader's type includes CP, look at 3 cards from the top of your deck. Reveal up to 1 card with a type including CP other than Spandam and add it to your hand, then trash the rest. So, like, I don't know why they would ever do something like that, but it is what it is. It's just something we're going to have to deal with. Soap Sheep, again, anything that has cost reduction, we're not going to care as much about because it's just not something we have to worry about with Garp. Gordon with the cost reduction, or power reduction, I'll click that and add that because it is at least worth noting, something we can have access to if we need it. Also, another card that we have access to if we need it, but we probably just don't need it because it's Garp, is Marine Forge. So I went ahead and clicked that and added it as well. And, see, there were a few other cards where it's like, okay, maybe we could have added this 2K counter, but I didn't want to go too crazy with it. Same thing with Sanji, we probably could have added if we wanted. But I think I got most of the relevant stuff that we really needed to look at to make some decisions on a deck. But yeah, if you want to look through the cards yourself, by all means, hop on, what is it called again? onepiece-cardgame.dev, and just kind of sort through it and look at it through, look at it at your heart's desire, however you say that. Because there were other cards like Strawberry, which was like, okay, if we can reduce their cost to 0, they can't block him realistically. because you'll just reduce the cost of the blocker that's 5 or more. Excuse me. And then 4 cost cards are always worth considering, like 4 cost 6k vanillas, Straw Hat searchable, Frankie's Straw Hat searchable, and Onigumo. This was another one. If there's a character with a cost of 0, this character gains Banish, so that again has a little bit of extra value in a deck like this, where we can easily reduce the cost to 0. This was an interesting one as well. This is coming out in OP04. It's when this character battles Don times 1, so it's a 5 cost 6k, 1k counter, Xinjiao or Qinjiao, however you say that. Attach 1 Dawn to him, you can subtract someone's cost by 1, and then when this character battles and KOs your opponent's character, draw 2 and trash you from your hand. That's something I think we should actually consider for a deck like this, but I didn't add in. And even like this card right here, Sengoku, this is a promo card. I don't think it's ever seen play in any black deck. Dawn times 1 on your turn, all of your opponent's characters get -2 to their cost. 5 cost, 6,000 power, no counter. But in this deck, in Garp, it'll reduce everyone's cost by 2, and then one person's cost by 3, right? Because attaching 1 Dawn uses effect, and then this is your turn effect, so you see how that's going. Okay, what else? 5 cost, 7k vanilla Garp. That's probably not that bad, actually, in general. Yeah, I think that's about it, guys. That's about all I was going to go over for this part. So now let's go ahead and get into some of the decks. Let me hop over. So the first one we're going to look at is a Whitebeard version. This is kind of the... Oh, gosh, why does it do this? There we go. So this is the Whitebeard version of the deck I'm kind of messing with, but it's mainly just black, right? I have an even more Whitebeard version, I think, later. But you see, this is... Actually, no, I'm sorry. This is the CP version. I'm sorry. I'm crazy. This is the CP version of the deck, where you got Fukuro, you got Bluno, you got your 6-King Pistol, your Khalifas, your Kumadoris, and then you're running all the one-ofs. The one-of Radbeam, one-of Newgate, one-of Marco, because why not? And you got 3 of your 5-cost Marco, because that card's just incredibly powerful. But this deck is not finished. All of these decks you're about to see are just rough drafts, just kind of giving you an idea what's going through my head right now. I'm running 4 brand new because I am running 30 Navy cards. It's actually 29 because they count the leader as a Navy in this program. But still, 29 searchers is pretty good for a searcher, even for brand new who can only search 3. But yeah, this is kind of one idea I was working with. 2 smokers. I don't know how we can not run smoker in a deck that's running Garp, just to be completely honest. And like I said, 1 of Kobe is just always going to make sense to me, and 4 of Meteor Volcanoes is just always going to make sense to me. Same thing with 1 Radbeam, same thing with 4 Impact Wave. It's something we'll have to kind of mess with. Tell me what y'all think about that in the comment section below. So next up, let's. I'm not going to spend too much time on this one because I feel like it's just the least refined out of all of them. But let's keep going. So the next one, this is like a Straw Hat version. I don't know why it does this. There we go. Let me blow it up one more. Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Nice. This one came out perfectly. So this is like a Straw Hat Crew version I'm working on. I'm splashing a single Fire Fist down there for the events. You got Garp and Brook for your 2k counters. And then you got Makino and Otama. I think I'm running 14 2k counters in this deck. And it's pretty aggressive. Like, the cheapest card is literally a Smoker and a Monkey D. Luffy and Marco, like the 5-cost slot. And I think it's still, like, I still think we should probably run Newgate in this deck. I just didn't add it. Like, even going down a 2k counter and just going up a Newgate would just make sense to me. But this is definitely very Straw Hat heavy, with a little bit of Navy support in cards like Smoker, Borsellino, Garp, the Impact Waves, the Meteor Volcanoes, 1 Kobe, I might have already said that, and then 2 Isuka. And this would be a little more of an aggressive version, whereas like the last version we looked at was CP. This is a very mid-range style deck, right? A little bit defensive, but very mid-range. Whereas the next deck we were just looking at, sorry guys, my voice is drying out so much at this point. I need to drink some water. This is much more aggro, much more aggressive, where it's like, okay, we'll even splash the single Fire Fist. And, like, you know, in your mind, you might be thinking, well, maybe I'll just toss an Impact Wave with the Fire Fist if I have to clear out the board and just keep on the relentless pressure. Sit on, like, a Guard Point or a Radical Beam. Excuse me. Running the Nico Robbins in this list, searchable by Nami. running just a single one of the 1 cost 1k power 1k counter Namis that attach Dawn for Dawn tricks, like with Issachar or something like that. We got Garp in here. Garp and Brook, like, because I'm running so many 2k counters, you actually want to play them on turn 2. Like if you, well, on turn 1 if you're playing second, right? If you're on the draw. If you're on the draw, you just play Monkey D. Garp on turn 1. Or Brook on turn 1. Just to get a body on the board. Because you've got plenty of 2k counters coming. You've got 3, you technically have like 3 guard points and like a super guard point and a rad beam. So it's like 1 rad beam, 2 guard points, 2 impact waves. You know, you should be fine defensively. Just try to get board presence. Like that's my idea with this deck. You got the big Zoro, the fast Zoro. You got the fast Luffy here. Yeah, just kind of, and again, probably every list is going to have the 5 cost Marco. And realistically, every list should probably have the 4 cost Marco as well. I don't know. Maybe not the 4 cost Marco unless you have enough cards to pitch with him. Because remember, he needs a Whitebeard Pirates card. Whereas Marco, the 5 cost Marco, just needs you just have to pitch an event. So this is one idea I had. So I won't spend too much time on it. If y'all like this one though, or if y'all think this is the direction the list should be, just say, just say it in the comment section below. Okay, next up, this is the Whitebeard version that I was working on. Let me blow it up. That one's not going to work. There we go. So this one, I'm running 3 of the Ezo Searchers, 1 brand new. I know that's kind of funky numbers, but it's because there's 25 Navy and 23 Whitebeard Pirates. You're gonna have a lot of overlap, right? Like, yes, you can definitely run 4 and 4, but this is just something I'm like kind of messing with the idea of. This is running 1 Haruta. It's running the 3 Izzos, like I said, 4 Jozu for 2k counters, 4 Garp 2k counter, 2 Suru, so it rounds us out at 10 2k counters, I think. 1 of Kobe, 2 Smoker, 4 Marco in this list because you can search it, 2 Sakazuki just to keep your mid-range strength. Basically your turn 3 play is basically, like, depending on if you went first or second, is going to be Marco or Sakazuki, just pretty much every time, right? Running a single Thatch because I think that might be interesting. 1 Newgate, 1 Rad Beam, 2 Whitebeard Pirates, 4 Meteor Volcanoes again, 4 Impact Wave, and 1 Fire Fist. 3 Speed Jill. I'm even running Speed Jill over Kuzan 4 cost because it's searchable for Whitebeard Pirates, and on top of that, it's just a little bit bigger body, and it has a 1k counter. Of course, the 4 cost Marco. I think I already said that. And yeah, pretty straightforward list though. Just some ideas again, and I really need y'all's help telling me which direction y'all think I should go with the deck moving forward. Next up, we got. Hang on, let me. I think I can blow this one up. Nice. Can I blow it up one more time? Not really. Let's just come back. Okay, so this is like the event version. This is like it's almost like an ace version or something, right? Where I'm running lots of events. I'm running Buggy and Nami for my searchers. And I think I'm running, what is this, 3, 6, 8, 12, 13 events. It's really not even that many events, but that 13 is quite a bit, though. Yeah, 4 Machino, and 4 Otama, 4 Machino. This is kind of a more generic list that just, it has a lot of has a lot of events to search with Buggy, and has, a lot of Straw Hats to search up with Nami. But there's really not even that many Straw Hats, to be honest. It's like 18. But this list is kind of all over the place. It was more meant for, like, it's more geared towards Buggy. I won't spend too much time on it. Again, I feel like I'm seeing a trend with what I want to build, where it's like Smoker just seems like an auto-include, at least as a 2 of. Rad Beam is an auto-include. At least 3 Marcos is an auto-include. Borsalino is auto-include. Meteor Volcano is auto-include. Impact Wave. And potentially Fire Fist if we have enough events. What do y'all think, by the way? Again, like, as I'm going through this, what do y'all think are auto-includes, which, what do y'all think should be auto-includes? Or what about cards that I said are auto-includes that you think should not be, right? Again, it's just something to brainstorm. It's something to think about. Okay. So then, last but not least, this is the OP04 list I'm working on. Again, it's not done. Why does it do this? I don't know why it does that blue thing. There we go. This is not done at all. I'm just going to blow this up a little more. Let me do one more. Nope, can't do that. Okay, that's why I had it at this, I guess. There we go. So this is kind of something that, I'm brewing up, where it's like you've got your 4 Namis and 1 Rebecca. So I see it as like, basically you have 5 ways to search up Luffy, the 7 cost Luffy, and 5 ways to search up Gum Gum King Kong gun, right? And then most of the other stuff is pretty straightforward. I've got the Sabo in here for cycle. There's only 19 Straw Hat cards and 17 Dressrosa, but you still got the 4 Marcos to hold it down. You still got your... I need to add... You know, right away, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to take out the 4 Makino, even though I have all these 1-cost characters. And I'm just going to add Garp, to be honest. Like, I just think he should be in the deck. Is this like red only? What is this? Red, black, cost. Here we go. Sorry, guys. So, you know, in this kind of deck, I just feel like Garp would be so good. Where is he at? There he is. There we go. Now, he's not searchable by Dressrosa or Straw Hat Crew, but that's okay because he kind of just is your 2-drop, right? And then your other 2K counters are Brooke and Bartolomeo, who just have really strong utility. And then you have your Rebecca and your Nami searchers, like I was saying. And then, like, I think the whole strategy behind a deck like this would be... There we go. The entire strategy would be stabilize early game and then just combo out on them with Luffy. I didn't even add the Diable Jambe. Hang on, we got to add Diable Jambe. Maybe we go down to King Kong gun. Yep. We'll go down 2. No, we got to keep 1. And then, or we got to keep 3, and then we'll add the Diable Jambe. Sorry, guys. Not very prepared today. There it is. So that's kind of like your little one-of combo tech cards in the deck. And it's like, y'all kind of see what I'm trying to do with this deck, right? Look at all the blockers, right? We've got the Borsalinos, we got the Sabos, we got Bartolomeo, in case you need that 2K counter as a blocker. And then we have Marco as just early board maintenance. You have Meteor Volcanoes to take out early threats. You have Garp to take out early threats. Rad Beam and Guard Point to stabilize, and then and Impact Wave as well to stabilize. And then you just drop down Monkey D. Luffy, you know, and you just start bashing in with them. And I don't know. The thing that makes this kind of hard to balance, though, is like you want to have 15 cards in your trash. And that's the hardest thing I feel like to balance in this deck right here. But I don't know. I think if we can pull it off, though, it's basically just going to be a GG. You know, GG no re. If we can make this deck, and I'm running the Sabos, but maybe instead of running like the Dressrosa package, we just search up Nami, or we just use Nami to search up the King Kong guns and the Monkey D. Luffy's, and then we still run Sabo no matter what because he's just that good, and then maybe we run a CP package so we can trash more cards. I don't know. Something to think about. There's a lot to think about with all this stuff, guys. You know, we're not even close to this guide I'm putting out right now. This is just the beginning of a very long journey with Black Red Garp, right? and this will probably, I don't mean to go too far into the future, but this will probably eventually evolve into a Black Red control deck for when the Black Red Sabo leader comes out in OP05. So again, it's just, I'm sorry if this video seemed all over the place. I do hope y'all at least got something out of it, you know, where it's like, okay, I've got some ideas now, because I'm anxious to hear what you guys have to say about the deck, because a lot of people wanted to see this. I'll probably be doing a comprehensive guide on Z and Sakazuki, because I think once I put out all of those, then we can get a better direction on where we want to go with making the next deck that, you know, or at least, you know, making the next deck you want me to try out at local tournaments, right? Because that's I'm bound where I am right now to where I can't really do anything more than local tournaments. I don't have time to do the regional stuff on the weekends or you know, travel anywhere on the weekends. I don't have the time, unfortunately. And I'm not trying to complain. I'm really just like, man, I wish I could, right? Like, I really wish I could be able to do that, but it's just not that opportunity is not available to me right now. But yeah, so this is basically, like I said, the first step into creating a Garp deck that's going to hopefully function the way we want it to. And I like I said, I can't stress enough, whatever other ideas y'all have that I might have missed or anything I might have got wrong, always hit me up in the comment section below and help me out. And yeah, guys, I think that's about it. I'm anxious to start this because Okay, when I started the black-yellow deck, I was really pessimistic in my mind. Like, I'm not going to be able to make this work. You know what I mean? I won't be able to do this. I'm going to let people down. That's ultimately what's going through my head. And who knows, I might have let people down. But like in my head, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to pull this off, man. Like, I don't see this leader being very good and this, that, and the other. But then once I went all in on it, I was like, dude, this deck actually has potential, you know? I mean, I don't know if it had potential to win like a huge, 1,000 person tournament, but it definitely had potential. So, that's something to, now I kind of can't wait, right, to hop into this and try out this, this new leader. I'm actually very, very anxious to get into it and do some play testing and see what works and what doesn't work, and report back to y'all with what I came across, and to hear what you guys come across with it when y'all try the deck out. It's awesome. We're all helping, excuse me, everyone's helping each other in this. So, all right, guys. Well, that's about it. I'm just kind of rambling at this point. Any comments, any suggestions, please leave a like and a subscribe, and it helps me out so much, guys, and I do appreciate it. And yeah, until next time, guys, peace.